Hi, today's video is going to be all about my personal experience with ADHD medication. I'll go over my experience with stimulant and non-stimulant medications, what I notice the differences are, and answering some of your questions. In case you're new, I'm Zoe. I go by ADHD with Zoe on social media, and I'm also an ADHD coach. All of the links will be in the description. Before we really dive in, I just need to make it super clear that this is my personal experience. This might not necessarily be your experience, and this isn't medical advice either. So if you are interested in trying out ADHD medication, I highly recommend you talk to your doctor about it. While my experience might not necessarily be the same experience you will have, I find that it's helpful to just get different perspectives and learn about what things have been like for other people before diving in myself. So that's really what the purpose of this video is. So first, getting started, I actually started on medication before I was officially diagnosed with ADHD. I think I was just talking with my doctor about some of the symptoms that I was experiencing as I went through university. Things were getting harder for me to sort of cover up for and mask, and just generally being busier made it harder for me to manage my undiagnosed ADHD on my own. The doctor gave me this sort of screener questionnaire with a few questions, and after I handed that back, they were like, okay, we can start trying some medication to help with this. I did end up getting an official diagnosis very shortly after, when I was 22. So the kind of gold standard treatment is stimulant medication. So that's what we started on. I started on one that is long acting called Concerta, and people always talk about online how it's kind of like a brand new world, and I definitely had that wow factor rebirthing experience, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people's brains are just like this moment. And the first 48 hours were really wild for me. I was just like, oh my gosh, my brain is clear. Like, I can just go and think about something that I want to do and just get up and do it. So I tidied up my whole room. I cleared the backlog of laundry. I just did all the things that ADHD paralysis had been getting in the way of. But after a while, I would say after the first like couple weeks, it started to not feel as effective. And even after talking with my doctor and increasing the dose, it just never got back to like that first 48 hours feeling. I also want to touch on the grief around starting ADHD medication that a lot of people, including myself, experienced. When I first tried it and I realized how much my ADHD was impacting me, because I feel like it truly didn't hit me until I tried the medication and experienced what it was like to not be so burdened by it. I just felt really sad for all of the time that had passed that I had been struggling, when I could have been taking this and things could have been so much easier. Like, things did not have to be as hard as they were. So I think if you are just starting out and you're feeling that grief, and that, for me, sometimes it was almost anger, like, why didn't this get addressed earlier? So all of those feelings are super valid if they're coming up for you. Back to the main story. As I was increasing the dosage of the medication, I started getting very agitated and militant, and it was just very frustrating feeling. Like, literally every single thing was annoying. I would just get irritated by the smallest of things, just set off, and like if people were moving too slowly, like it would really agitate me more than usual. Like, these are things that would kind of typically bother me, but they started to feel like unbearable. I've heard a lot of people online say that ADHD medication kind of like uncovered their autism, which I can't necessarily relate to, because I had already known I was autistic and had been diagnosed with autism for several years at this point. But I do think that because the medication allowed me to do so much more, I was kind of going beyond what I would normally do, and that became overstimulating and probably contributed to the agitation, because agitation and irritability are a couple symptoms that I typically get when I'm overstimulated. So I think that unlocking this new potential for myself and being able to do so many things, I didn't have a good grasp of like setting a routine that works for me. And so I was just doing it all and getting really overstimulated, and then the stimulant made me more agitated, and it was just not a good vibe. But yeah, ultimately the side effects of like the agitation and stuff were getting kind of unbearable for me to be experiencing that agitation all the time, and honestly for other people to be experiencing me as agitated all of the time and kind of like lashing out. It just, yeah, not how I wanted to be in the world. So again, talk to my doctor. Every change I do, I always consult with my doctor, and decided that I wanted to try something different. So that's when we switched to a non-stimulant. The brand name of the one that I tried is atomoxetine. And from my understanding, these kind of medications are more like a buildup in your system kind of thing. So I definitely did not have that wow factor right at the start like I did with the stimulant medication. And it definitely took a while before I really noticed anything. And overall, the effectiveness just is not as dramatic as it was with the stimulants for me. It's definitely still noticeable. Like, I wouldn't be taking it if I felt like it did absolutely nothing, but it is definitely more subtle. So some of the main ways I find that it helps me is that it's easier to sustain focus, especially on things that aren't super interesting to me. And the other really huge one is in switching and initiating tasks. It really helps me just be able to start things. And one other thing that I really didn't expect is that it just helped my mood a lot. I've always kind of struggled with really big mood swings, and I felt like it helped just really regulate my mood to be a little more consistent. So that was a nice surprise. But in general, ADHD medication is a tool and not a cure. So if you're thinking about starting and you think that you will take these medications and have your ADHD cured, you are definitely going to be disappointed. I think that it kind of just opens the door to make it a lot easier to work on implementing other tools and strategies and just really just make stuff easier in general. So it's really just one piece of the puzzle instead of like a solution, because at the end of the day, even when you're using these medications, you're still gonna have ADHD and it's still gonna show up sometimes. And that's just how it is, no matter how frustrating. That's just the reality when you have ADHD. All right, now I'm going to get into some questions. I asked my community on Instagram and Threads what kind of questions they had about ADHD medication. So let's go over some of those now. Okay. The first question is, does it make rest harder? To this, I would say I've always struggled with rest, as many people with ADHD do. So rest in general kind of looks different for me. I would say with the stimulants, it definitely made it harder to take breaks and like fully rest, and also just that agitation like made me feel kind of on all the time, if that makes sense. But I don't really find that the non-stimulants impact my ability to rest. The next question is, in what ways, if any, did it affect my creativity? And what I'm about to say, I would say is true for both types of medication, is it didn't affect my creativity at all per se. But it definitely has allowed me to act on that creativity more. Like before, I would have all of these great ideas of things that I wanted to create, but then the executive dysfunction and task initiation piece would really get in the way. So now I feel like I am much more able to actually start those projects and actually follow through on them and finish them. Then someone asked if I have inattentive or combined type, or like what type of ADHD do I have? And I couldn't remember what I was officially diagnosed with. So I went back and checked, but it wasn't explicitly mentioned in that report. I think I remember the psychologist saying that it looked like it was combined, kind of leading towards inattentive. So I guess we'll just go with that. Next, which one really actually helped? I would say the stimulant medication was more obviously helpful, but obviously the side effects definitely detracted from the helpfulness for me. So personally, I would say the non-stimulants because they're the ones that I have been sticking with long term. And so that is definitely the more helpful one because something that you can't tolerate doesn't help. The last question is how to live a life that can ride the waves without needing them so often. So, my doctor, even on the stimulants, recommended that I take them consistently every day. Obviously, listen to whatever your doctor is telling you to do. This is just the advice I received. And I don't think that there's any shame in having to take them every day. Just like people take medication for basically anything else, just like people wear glasses when they have trouble seeing. It's just another thing that we have to do to take care of ourselves. So some people are concerned that specifically with the stimulants that they will build up a tolerance. So they take like tolerance breaks. And honestly, I'm not qualified at all to touch on that. I don't know if that is a real thing or not. So I'm just going to not comment on that. But ultimately, your dosage schedule is something that should be negotiated between you and whoever is prescribing your medication. And like I mentioned, medication is just one piece of the puzzle. If you feel like you need additional support along with the medication, working with an ADHD coach like myself can be a great option as well to work on developing those strategies that work specifically for you. So that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe for more ADHD kind of content. I hope that you are taking away what you came for from this video, and I will see you in the next one.